afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our session on .NET Aspire. Welcome to Build. Have y'all been having fun? Cool. Awesome. Good to know. I'm going to do a little bit of credits before we get started. Just a few credits. First, how many of you were here last year? Did anybody come to my Cloud Native session last year? Okay, we started working on Aspire right after that. This is a year. It's been exciting. So give the team a huge round of applause for working on this. Cool. I'd like to thank my dev lead, Vijay, over here. He gave you all the great tools you're going to see today. He and his fantastic team. My good friend Alistair is in the room. Alistair is one of our wonderful writers who worked on the Learn path that we're releasing at the same time. Let's give him a huge round of applause. And we have the author of the first book on .NET Aspire sitting right here, Mr. Kristen. This book comes out in about a week. Pragmatic Microservices, I think. So I do want to let everybody know we have some great content around Aspire that's going to be coming out, in addition to some great tools that Wendy and I are going to talk to you about right now. So let's go ahead and get started. Here's our agenda. First thing we're going to talk about is a little bit about what .NET Aspire means for .NET and Cloud Native. If you were in the session last year, it's basically simplicity. It's kind of what it boils down to. All the stuff we did last year, we can do a lot faster, easier, and with less tricks now. Next thing we're going to talk about is going to be .NET Aspire with C# Dev Kit inside of VS Code. And then we're going to talk about .NET Aspire from within Visual Studio. So you'll see a little bit of Mac, you'll see some terminal, you'll see some VS. We're going to kind of cover the whole gamut. The last round of applause I want to give is to our wonderful friends in the Azure Developer CLI team. They're sitting kind of in the front row up here. Anybody AZD user? I saw a bunch of Azure hands go up. We've partnered with them to kind of give you a great deployment story. Please give our friends in the AZD team a huge round of applause. So, thank you. All right, so let's go ahead and dive in. I'm Brady Gaster. I work on Visual Studio. This is my good friend Wendy Breiding. You want to introduce yourself?
I'm Wendy Breiding. I work on .NET tooling and specifically C# Dev Kit, so I'm very excited.
Yay, it's good stuff. C# and .NET in NEOS with Dev Kit is fantastic. And of course, now this is going to die. So what does .NET mean? What does .NET Aspire mean for .NET Cloud Native? Again, it's simpler. What we've done is we've given you, as you saw David and Damien talk about earlier, if you haven't watched it online, we have given you a bunch of components. We've made the process of onboarding easier. We've heard from a lot of customers that they've gone from onboarding devs in 2 weeks to 2 days, or 2 hours even. So it's been really exciting to see how much ease we've given folks who want to party in cloudnative.net. And just we're going to keep getting better, keep doing more stuff. So this is what you're going to need. Essentially what you need is .NET, and you're going to want to install the .NET Aspire workload. The tools, again, you can download today. Visual Studio 2022 17.10. 17.11 preview is also out with some additional new features. C# Dev Kit is an extension that you can download and install on your machine along with VS Code. And you can kind of get up and running in pretty much no time at all. If you're using Azure and you don't already have AZD installed, you're going to want to install that for doing publishing of .NET Aspire apps. So I do want to call that out. You can install that with, from Winget or just download it yourself. All right, and then the Azure Resources extension for VS Code will also kind of help you manage your Azure resources. So, all right, moving right along. Hello, .NET Aspire. So what I want to do first, let me see if I can remember which one I am. 3?
3.
Okay. Cool. First thing I'll show you is our wonderful docs. Hats off to all of our great writers. Cam, David Pine, you may know him from Blazerland. And Alex, a bunch of great writers, and all the devs on the team have worked really, really hard to make sure that throughout the preview cycle, you had up-to-date docs. So I do want to drive you directly to the docs. It's just learn-ms-com/.net/Aspire. And then here's our lovely Learn module set that we're going to be having. We've already got 3 modules out. By the time we've got them all out, it's going to be 10. So I do want to point that out. So let's go ahead and dive right in. So I've got my terminal window open. I'm just going to click .NET New Aspire Starter, and I'll do an output to my app. Okay? I promise there's a good moment. So we'll CD into this. Now, the first thing I always do when I make LCD my app, first thing I do is git init, that should be main, go ahead and create my repo. I'm gonna go ahead and do .NET new, git ignore. Thank you, wonderful template crew. And that will lay down my git ignore file. I'm just gonna go ahead and do a quick add, git add dot, and then git commit -m created. Cool, and now we're good. So now I've got a clean branch. I'll show you why I'm doing that in a second. Now what I'll do next is .NET run -- project. If I can find the thing, my app host, my app host CS proj. We're gonna run this directly from your CLI. This you can do Mac, Linux, PowerShell, anywhere. So I just want to point out, you can go ahead and get started with .NET Aspire directly in your command line. It looks like it's going to take a second to build and pull everything down because I'm on stage. Or run. Maybe. There we go. So that's going to spin right up. And I'm going to go ahead and open up the dashboard here in my browser. And what you'll see if I zoom in so you can see things is I've got that back end and I've got the front end. Now I'm not going to click through and show you all the exciting telemetry stuff yet. I've got that coming up later. But what I want you to see here that I've got 2 nodes, okay? So what I'll do now, so just go ahead and close this down. I want to stop my app and I want to clear my screen. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stay in my root, make sure I'm in the root, here I am. And I'm going to use this new experimental tool we have just to kind of add some features to this app. It's called .NET Scaffold. Again, this is not released yet, but we want to get your opinion on it. So I'll say .NET Scaffold. It's got some interesting font choices currently, don't worry yet. And what I'll do is I'll zoom in a little bit. You'll see I've only got 1 category, my favorite one, Aspire. I'll pick Aspire, and now I've got 3 categories: database, storage, or caching. I'll go down here to caching, and I'm just going to pick regular Redis. If I wanted to go ahead and dial in all the output caching stuff, I could. I'll pick Redis here. Now the next question is, I want you to select your app host project. So please tell me which app host project you've got. We'll probably make this smart later, maybe. Now it says pick a web or a worker project. I'll pick web. Now, this is my favorite part. This is going to be awesome. A year of clicking yes. Okay. Now. So now what's happening is we're bringing in all the packages. We're wiring up Redis, Stack Exchange Redis, like you saw, basically dialing in my components. We'll talk about components a little bit later. It's going to update both of those projects for me. And now I'm finished. And I'll clear the screen. And one more time, I'm just going to do it this way, be lazy. I'm going to .NET run one more time. And you'll see that I've got 4 files changed. I'll show you what those files look like in a second. I want to click on this, open up my dashboard, and now I've got Redis. So I've added Redis. I didn't have to write any code. So now let me show you what we've actually done there. We've done a very surgical set of changes to those 2 projects. So what I'll do is I'll just open up code. Nice segue. Open up code here. And if I go over here to this folder, what you'll see now is I've made a few changes. To my app host, I've added that Redis hosting component. To my web project, I've added my Stack Exchange Redis component. To my app host program CS, I've done the right things. And in my application code, I've also done the right things. If you like this, you should tell me and Vijay you like it. And tell us what other components you want. Cool. Awesome. With that said, let me flip back to 1, right? On 1 here. I'm on 1 now. I've shown you some terminal stuff. Who wants to do all that stuff in the terminal, right? Now, Wendy, turn it over to you.
Yeah, so I am totally not a command line developer. I'm more of a polyglot developer, so I love VS Code. And so I'm going to switch over to the Mac, and we're going to show you some of the cool things that you can do with C# DevKit and VS Code to get your Aspire app going. So just like what Brady did with the .NET New command, I have a Create .NET Project button right here in Explorer. So when I click that, that brings up a list of all the different projects that I can create, and there's that starter application that I can click. I tell it where to put it, and give it a name. and it's going to create that project.
Cool, nice.
And so a lot of cool things that we have added to C# Dev Kit that's only been out now since November, so very new. So we're really looking for your feedback, so please find me afterwards if you've got, if you really like working in VS Code and have ideas on what we can add to C# Dev Kit. Right now I'm waiting for the extension to, there we go. My Solution Explorer appeared. Just like if you're used to Visual Studio, we have the Solution Explorer, which shows you all the great things. These are the 4 projects that were created. Here's my app host. I can see all the dependencies, the packages and projects and everything. And so one of the new things that we've added recently to C# Dev Kit is the ability to add NuGet packages. And so I'm going to do what he did with that cool scaffolding, which I don't have access to. So I have to do it manually. So I'm going to add the NuGet package here, and it's going to ask me to search. So I'm going to search for Aspire Redis. And that's going to bring up a list of all the things that match there. And I'm going to add that hosting, and it gives me all the list of the versions that are available for me to select. I'm going to click the latest one, and it's going to automatically appear in my dependencies. This updates my CS proj file for me, and I don't have to do any manually typing like we had to do previously in VS Code. I'm also going to add one more, and I'm going to do that output caching for my web. Get that latest version. Now, if I have an old Aspire, if I was on Hotbits before and I had preview packages, I could come in here and I can update my NuGet packages to the latest ones, which is really cool. I can remove them if they're not being used. Lots of great stuff. I still have to come in and manually type because I don't have that cool scaffolding tool yet.
It's still secret. It's pretty top secret.
So luckily, I do have Copilot, which makes it easier. I've typed this how many times. And then add Redis output cache and Redis. Awesome. So now I've got my basic starter application. Let's see if I go ahead and run and debug. So I'm going to start debugging. Select C#, and I'm going to select that app host project.
And that showed you all of your launch profiles.
That shows you all of the possible launch profiles.
Cool.
Yep.
That's excellent. See, Beth, I told you C# and VS Code would be a thing one day. I told you. All right, so we do have a little bit of a hiccup in that it tries to start the browser a little bit before all the services have been going, but it refreshes automatically. So we do have that dashboard up now, and everything is, you can see everything's running. We got our Redis running, our API service, and our web front end. I can navigate. I can check out my website. And I don't like the way that that date looks. I want a different format, so I'm going to go back. But I'm going to keep my debug session going because we've heard from a lot of people that we need hot reload in C# Dev Kit. So I'm going to come over here to my weather. I'm going to make a change to that date format. Save that. Come back and refresh. And I got a new, I didn't have to rebuild and everything. Yes. Nice. Cool. Very cool.
So, awesome stuff there. So now I'm almost ready, I think. But I can't go to production with my app until I have some tests. So I'm going to come and I'm going to add a new project. It's going to bring up that same list. But I'm going to select this .NET Aspire test project. That template was created for us. And create that. I also need to add a reference to our app host project so that it knows what to do, what to connect to. And then come in here and uncomment these lines of code. Oh, why is it doing that?
Control Shift U.
There we go. And make sure it's got the right name.
So that's actually in the template. You just got to uncomment it, and then you can actually run the test.
Yep.
It's pretty cool.
I just do a right quick build on this right here. Once it's finished building, you see this green play button appears right next to the test. So now we've connected, or C# Dev Kit connects with the testing APIs in VS Code, so I can run my test directly from here and see if it passes. We also have connection to the Test Explorer within VS Code, so if you have a whole bunch of tests, you can see them all, you can run one, you can run them all, and all kinds of really cool stuff. So that passed, everything's looking good.
Nice. It's cool. That's awesome. I love that. I mean, you kind of took one of my demos, but I was going to ask you if you could do this in VS Code after I did it. So you've already answered that for me. That's good.
Yes,
I like that.
So the starter app is a little bit of a smaller app. So I'm going to come over. I have another window open with eShop, our big application. You can see down here it's got 25 projects in it. This is all loaded within C# Dev Kit in VS Code. It's got a ton of tests that I can run. The Solution Explorer here shows all of those projects. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start debugging this one. Let's see if we can get that, all 25 of them to show up in our dashboard.
VS Code?
In VS Code.
Whoa, that's cool.
Again,
that's the
it
thing.
loads it a little too early, but it's going to refresh here in a second. And there we go.
That's awesome.
Everything's up and running.
That's cool.
So
And-
fast, easy, quick
Wait.
development.
That's not your code. Those red X's happen when they start up, so that's not her fault.
Yeah, that's not, yeah, those are how many are running. It tells you how many instances are running. Those aren't red X's, yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's fantastic. We can do everything in VS Code now. That's great.
So if I've got my application ready to go to the cloud now, I've got this great option. I'm going to Command-Shift-P, and I'm going to type in AZD. And the AZD extension that Brady mentioned in the What You Need, this provides you with all of the cool different options that you had. So I can do an AZD init to set up my environment. I'm going to tell it to use the code in the current directory. And this is going to pop you down into the terminal down at the bottom, where it's going to scan through all your code. And it recognizes that this is a .NET Aspire app. It says it's going to generate all the files necessary to host my app using Azure and Azure Container Apps. That's exactly what I want, so I confirm. I give it a name, and it creates all those files.
Nice.
And then I can come back over here to my Azure tab, and you can see that it loads that workspace right there, so I can see the services that it's going to create and the environments that are there. So then all that I have to do after that is go back to that command palette, and I've got this package, provision, and deploy, the AZD up command that I can run. Now, I'm not going to click that because it takes a while and you don't want to watch me do that. And Brady's got some really cool Visual Studio things that he's going to show you. So I'm going to hand it over to him. But just a reminder, please, everybody, C# Dev Kit, we're brand new since November. I really would love your feedback on what you'd like to see us add as we move forward. So please find me. I'm going to be here all day.
Sweet. That was fantastic. That was fantastic. Yeah, I wish I've said this about Aspire for the last year. I wish I'd have had that win. You know what I mean? So I'm going to do the only two slides that are going to kind of be part of my section. I'm going to talk about Visual Studio, and I think that's actually the next one. I'll go into Copilot in a minute. I thought I had an Azure slide, but I don't. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about Aspire, Visual Studio, and Azure. I'm going to try and show a couple of things that you may have seen David and Damien show, but maybe a couple of additional ones as well. The first thing I want to show you is a couple of template items. I want to do File, New Project, and I'll just go right here and type Aspire. And you'll see all the different templates that we've given you. So you've got the Aspire starter application, which kind of gives you everything out of the gate. If you just want to start up with a .NET app, you can just do a .NET Aspire application. This app host, if for whatever reason you've already got a couple of web projects and you want to enlist in Aspire, you can add an app host to your project. You saw Damien do that earlier with Enlist. That'll kind of give you the ability to just create an app host in memory or in your solution. And then you've also got this concept of a service defaults. We may change that to just defaults. That service defaults actually has an ASP.NET Core dependency. It depends on some of our libraries in ASP.NET Core, but we do have a couple of samples out there on a non-ASP.NET Core dependent service defaults. So if you want to do something like the Worker SDK or just regular .NET SDK, you could have your own service defaults project. And then, like you just saw, Wendy demo, you've also got these Aspire test projects that you can party on. So what I'm going to do first is just create a standard, just the whole kit and caboodle. I'm going to go ahead and turn everything on. You'll see that I've got HTTPS turned on, Redis, the whole nine, and I do want to have a test project. I'm going to show you we have that same kind of test capability directly inside of VS. What I can do to show you that is I'll open up this web tests, and then I'll always get lunchy trying to find this window test. Where is it? Test Explorer. So I can open up my Test Explorer now. This test, it comes in our template for you. Essentially, it'll just make a call to that web front end. And what I want to point out here is if I were to open up my app host program CS, you'll see here that we're actually calling it by name. So you don't have to know the URL at dev time or runtime. You just say, it's kind of like, cloud native calling. You just give it the name and it knows how to find it. Which I could probably write another test and try to test out this other project that I have right here, this API service. So what I'll do first is just kind of run the test to show you that it does indeed run. And it'll actually start up my Aspire application, go out and hit that front end, and just make sure that essentially it gets back an HTTP OK. Make sure it gets back at 200. Let that test run. Sorry. You have no idea how tense this is up here, believe me. If you think it's boring, just imagine if you were us.
VS Code's faster.
It is faster. This sounds like, this is going to be fun. All right, so you just said VS Code is faster if you didn't hear. So what I'll do now is I'll just copy this fact. I'm going to do one here. So I'll go down here and I'll just say whether API returns OK. And I'll just, oh, what was that? I hit F1. Now what I'll do, instead of web front end, is I'll go over here to my app host, and I don't want to type it, so I'm just going to select the API service. I will go back, I'll go back over here, paste this in, and what I'm actually going to do is, since I'm hitting root, I'm going to change this right here and say not found. Because I know that if I go into my API service program CS, I only have that weather forecast endpoint. I don't have the other one. So I'll go back here to this thing, and I'll just save that. And I'm going to just make this easier on myself. Copy this. And then returns OK. And then I will change this URL right here to weather forecast. And I'll come down here and change this to this. And now I've got OK. I don't want OK here. I want not found. So what I'm doing is I'm hitting that root, which I know is not going to return anything. And then on this one, I'm actually hitting that weather API, the weather API itself, which I do expect to return something, or my API is broken, and that would be bad. So I can go right here, and I can just, I'll do 2 in 1. I'll go ahead and put a breakpoint right here, and I'll go over here to my web test, and I'll just right-click this thing and say debug. And what it's going to do now is it's going to probably run one of the tests, and then it's going to hit the one that has the debugger attached to it, and I'm going to step through that debugger. And what I love best about this is that I don't have to know the URL. I just say create HTTP client, and I give it the name of the logical app node that I've got in my Aspire app, and it just knows what to do. See if I've hit my breakpoint yet. There we go. Oh, that's not it. There it goes. So now we've hit the breakpoint. So this shows you how you can actually use your typical test projects to actually test inside of that Aspire runtime. So that's pretty cool. You test a multitude of different services all at once. But you're right, you're faster. That was faster. That's pretty impressive. Okay, so we've shown you a couple of small apps, and I've kind of avoided what is probably the most exciting tool in the whole stack, which is that dashboard. Okay, so the dashboard really, really shines when you've got an application like eShop, or like an application I'm going to show you here in a second, a game with lots of nodes. So what I want to do is I want to fan over here. Oh, of course I would do that. I want to show you this. Does anybody recognize this? Anybody as old as me? You recognize this? Cool. Okay. So some friends of ours, back in the early days of Azure, they did this thing to kind of drum up interest in Azure called rock, paper, Azure. You can see it's old because it says Windows Azure on it. So this is what that UI looked like. And the idea behind rock, paper, Azure was to use web and worker roles, I can't remember if they were web or workers, to basically write code that we don't even have the code for anymore. So I've got it open in Reflector here. And essentially what it was robotic rock, paper, scissors. So you basically write a bot, the bot plays for you, et cetera, et cetera. Well, these gentlemen were really nice to me. They referred me to come to work at Microsoft. So I'm kind of paying homage to these individuals with my own version of this app that I've modernized. So here is the app host for Rock, Paper, Orleans, which a good friend in the audience, Ryan Graham, actually contributed one of the bots you'll see. So up here, you'll see all my dependent resources. Turning on storage, I definitely don't want to do that. Well, definitely want to run as emulator for now and skip that demo. You'll see that I'm going to turn on tables and blobs because I'm going to use table and blob storage for my Orleans backend providers. Now, the next thing is I've got a couple of components, essentially my game components, my game controller, and my leaderboard. So that UI, kind of like this thing. Don't pick on Brian that I'm picking on his UI skills. So, and then these are kind of all my players. Now, a player is pretty simple. I'll open up Rando because he's pretty logical. He basically just throws random, throws random. Rock, paper, or whatever. He'll just go off. So this is kind of what it looks like to build one of these bots. This is an open source repo, so if you want to build a bot, I'll share the URL with you later. So I'm just going to go ahead here and hit F5 so we can open up this app. Now, what you'll see is that the app will begin to spin up. It takes a couple seconds. All the nodes will begin to communicate using Azurite locally. If I've got Docker running, that would be embarrassing. I'll go ahead and zoom out real quick. So you'll see all these nodes kind of running now. So my leaderboard is kind of my front end. My game controller is really the game loop. It's got an API I'll hit in a second, yada, yada, yada. And then all the other ones are actual players. So what I'll do first is I'll open up that front end. You can kind of see what this looks like. So here's Rock, Paper, Orleans on top of Aspire. So you'll see that it just spins all the time. Now, what I can do over here is you'll see Slowpoke kind of goes slow. He's like maybe 3 seconds a move. The other ones are pretty quick. So what I can do now is I can actually go over to my game controller as a for instance. I could expand this and I could just stop it. So I'll go over here and I'll hit stop. Now the game loop stopped. So I don't want that, that's boring. We'll do that again in a second. But for now, I want the game loop running. So see if I've got it running again. So now the game loop's running. You can see all these things communicating on the back end. Now what I'm gonna do is have this new feature and I have a really boring player named Slowpoke. And I wanna show you how fast this can run, but Slowpoke always slows it down. So what I'm gonna do at this point is I'm just gonna come down here and I'm gonna kick Slowpoke out of the game. Slowpoke, and you'll see Slowpoke vanish. Oop, there he goes. Now, the reason I did that is, he slows the game down whenever I wanna do something like, I don't know, change the game loop. So at this point, I'll set the game loop to 100 and I'll hit execute. You'll see now the game will spin up. If I wanted to be really rude, I can set it to 10. And now it'll just really, really go fast. So now what's happening over here on this resources, is what I'm gonna go back to in a second, is if I go over here to traces, what you'll see are all these distributed traces running. Now, I can't click on it when it's doing that, okay? So I'm gonna have to stop the game again. Let me go over here and hit stop one more time. And what I wanna show you after I stop it is in these traces, we'll kind of have a point in time of one of the steps of the game. And to me, this really shows the power of this distributed trace view. So think about the go method. The go method is the game controller waking up, picking 2 players, one player goes, one player goes, one player goes, one player goes, and they have to communicate back and forth. Now, if I were to zoom out here and just click on one of these, look at that. So it's cool when you just see a front end talking to a back end, but when it's something like this, where there's a lot of different cross-process communication, this dashboard is super valuable. So I do want to point that out. It's exciting stuff. Now, I've got it running locally, and you showed this. I'm going to have to show it too, because I'm excited about it. And I think I might be faster on this one. So what I've got is I've got my front end running, and I've noticed I started changing the font. I'm just not happy with the fact that I forgot it in a few places. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my game components, go into the leaderboard right here. I'm going to find my pages, And I can't remember exactly what the CSS tag that I want is. I think it's lucky. So I'm going to change some stuff to lucky. So I'll go over here to my shared, open up main layout, and I know that's one. I want to change it from banger to lucky. I'll just hit save. And now I can do a quick little, bring that over, and I'll see this little hot reload button. Change it. There we go. So I didn't even have to, it's just, I can hit that little hot reload button and it just changes for me. So that's pretty exciting stuff, right? I like that. Now, David showed some other stuff and talked about Azure. I'm going to lean in on that next. But before I do, oh, that's the wrong button. Let me go back out. What did I do? Uh-oh. Oh. That's not good. What? Thank you. Thank you, whoever you are. So what I'll do next, sounded like Isaac a little bit. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go up here and I'm going to show you this run as emulator. And this is one of the things that is in the docs. I think they leaned in on it a little bit in their previous session. So what I'm doing is I want to run the Azure Write emulator here whenever I'm partying locally. But there are cases where I might want to actually do this in the cloud. I might want to actually party on live resources. David showed this. I'll go a little bit slower because we have extra time. So I'll hit F5 and you'll see the dashboard spin up. Here we go. So my dashboard's spinning up, and what you'll see here, missing subscription configuration, and then everything else is going to fail to start because everything depends on Orleans, and Orleans depends on Azure Storage. So at this point, I'm kind of in a bad state. But what I can do is I can zoom out and I can look at these logs, not those logs. I can look at, where did they go? Storage? Storage. I can look at this and it's going to say, you need to configure your app so that you've told me where you want to provision the dev resources, essentially. Now, Fowler showed this, but what I'll do here is I'll right-click on my app host project, and I'm going to say, whoops, go to connected services, and I'm going to say add Azure resource provisioning. And I'm going to go down here to, I'll pick West US because we're here. And I'll just type, I'll do a new one. I'll just type Brady's Dev Resources. And I'll hit OK. And essentially what I would do now is I would hit F5 again. And it's going to go out and begin provisioning that storage resource. You saw David do that. I'll do it again one more time. It's going to take a second. But what I want you to do is to see that once I run this, our code is actually going to kind of make a call to the AZ CLI under the covers using the secrets that I just set using that connected service. And it's going to go out and begin provisioning my Azure storage directly out in the cloud right here. See, it's compiling my ARM template. If I were to hit view, we would actually see the different process that that's going to go through as it actually goes out and provisions everything. So this is kind of a great example of I have a resource like OpenAI is a good example, storage is another good example. I have a resource that I need to provision before I write my code, right? So this gives you that opportunity to kind of use Aspire, get it all wired up, and then when you hit F5, we just provision it for you. So not the whole thing, just the resources that you're going to need in your app. So go ahead and kill that off. And the last thing I'm going to do is my favorite part of this. This is the demo that I like to call what I've always wanted. So you've seen eShop, 25 projects. How many of them are deployable? 18?
I think it's 18, yeah.
Okay. You've seen Rock, Paper, Orleans. Okay, at this point, I've got 13 projects in this, and I have, what is it called? 𝗬𝗬𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 existing project, somewhat logical. Now this project doesn't reference any Aspire stuff. This is just a bot that I started working on because I was tired of the random bots winning. So what I'll do now is I'll right-click this project. I'm going to zoom in over here, and you'll see that if I go, I can't do it like that. I'll right-click somewhat logical. I'll say add, and then you'll see this .NET Aspire Orchestrator support right here. All I have to do is just click that, if I can do it. Boop. And it's going to say, hey, you already have an app host and the service defaults. I'm just going to use those for you. And I'm like, OK. And I hit OK. And then what you also see is it's going to add the code to my new player project so that I get the service defaults call right here. and then I get map default endpoints. And if I hit F5, and I've turned back to emulator, so we're not going to provision, that's good. If I hit F5 here and we open up that dashboard, what you should see is that I no longer have 13 projects because that's bad, and there's a new player called 𝗦𝗲𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀, and he's pretty logical. He kind of learns what the other bots do based on their name and what they're doing, and then he kind of votes, accordingly. So I'll go right here, see 𝗦𝗲𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀, right here. That project was not there before. If I go into my leaderboard right now, of course that would happen. So of course that's going to happen. So something blew up. I apologize. Maybe I forgot some code somewhere. But you see what we can do is we can right-click those projects and just say enlist in Aspire orchestration. What that gives you is the ability to file a new project, add a new project to your solution, check the box that Damien showed, or in the case that I have, if you've got an old project that you want to bring into an Aspire project, you can just enlist in that orchestration directly from within VS. That's pretty convenient. Now, what I'm going to do here is revert that, because I've clearly done something bad. So I'll just hit revert on that. And the last thing I'm going to show you, I'm going to do it in reverse order. Most of the time, when somebody wants to show a long, right-click deployment thing, they do the thing and then they do the cooking show routine, and they kind of show you the done state. I'm not even going to do the first part. I'm just going to show you what it looks like after you've done a publish. Now, what you see here is one publish button. I don't have to click on every single project that I want to publish and publish it. I only have to click on the app host and select publish, and then we go through this process. Now I'll do this real quickly. I'll hit right click, publish, it's going to open this thing up. I'm going to hit new environment, and the first dialog we're going to see is Azure Container Apps for .NET Aspire. That's exactly what I want. I'm going to go to Brady's Happy Cloud because it's happy. I'll go down here to West US, and I'll just say, this will work, promise, and hit finish. And I'm not going to actually do that publish, but what I'm going to show you is what it's going to do now is it's going to create a new AZD environment for me so that I can basically publish to a second environment, a third environment, however many environments I want. Once that finishes refreshing, it's going to show me a list of all the different projects and the fact that it's going to publish them out. And you saw the other view that I opened up at first, which was it had already been published. You have links at the bottom to go to everything, every one of the dependent resources, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I do want to call all that out. So did it finish yet? It's going to refresh for a second. There we go. So it says ready to publish now. Go down here, round robin players. Here's all the deployable assets that I wanted to push, and all I have to do now is hit publish. I'm done. That's it. And it's going to publish them all out. Huge round of applause to our friends in Azure Developer CLI. Thank you. Thank you. Cool. All right, now I'm going to do back to the presentation. I told you we were going to end early. Nobody ever believes me, ever. All right, so this is one thing I want to call out, the Better Together service. One thing that you can do, you've probably seen this a few times, and it did not work for me earlier. I'm going to try it out. But the way Better Together works is in my deployed instance, in my deployed application right over here. So I've got my app right here. I could actually go into one of these projects, and you'll see my Copilot link right here. This did not work for me earlier because I'm in my personal sub, and I don't think they've turned it on for me yet. But I want to go right here and just try this out. What DB should I use for my app? Now, if you were in Mr. Hunter's session the other day with Grace, you saw her do something similar to this, where she would ask the question, what DB, what other resources should I use along with my app? It suggested Redis, it suggested SQL. If I was turned on, this works in my corporate sub, but not in my personal sub. I don't know why, but if I were to let that run, it's going to recommend SQL Server or Redis to me. I do want to call out that we do have that capability, and we're thinking about how we could use that with like container suggestions and like going from a containerized thing to a service thing. I don't know what we're going to do there yet, but we have some ideas. Last thing I'll do is I'll flip back over to one. Now, I don't have a demo of this. Came in pretty late, but I'm excited to tell you that anybody ever heard of ASP.NET or .NET data protection? Have you ever had to deal with data protection before? Okay, in app service, we worked with the app service team a long time ago, and they kind of do the data protection stuff automatically for you. Data protection kind of lives underneath session, cookies, form posting. I think that's it. It's really important. Okay, you would have to configure that using like a persistent key storage provider like blob storage or Entity Framework to basically store your key in case you had multiple nodes of your app running. That's what you have to do when you're in a containerized environment. Well, if you're on ACA, we've made it automatic for you. So if you've ever had to do this before, it's not too hard. Pull in a couple of NuGet packages, store your key, you're off and running. But if you forget to do it when your apps scale out, you can kind of run into some issues, session persistence, that kind of thing. Well, the nice folks in Azure Container Apps have actually turned on data protection for you. So you're totally ready for .NET Aspire apps to scale all day long. It's pretty cool. All right. Now we're almost out of time, but I do want to call out some calls to action. Same calls to action David and Damien had. Please install the .NET Aspire workload. Give it a try. Make your first Aspire app. Try out the different VS Code extensions that exist. C# Dev Kit for sure. You can write C# anywhere. Try out a couple of the different components. If you find any issues, send us a GitHub issue and open up a dialogue with us, and we'll see if we can work through it with you. Do the learn path. Take the learn path. Today it has 3 modules. In 2 weeks it'll probably have 5, and by the time we're done it'll have 10. It's going to go pretty deep into what you can do with Aspire and Party on it. And again, look at the docs, because we have a lot of great docs out there that we've kind of kept up as we've gone along. And if you're an Azure user, show of hands, please. My friends in the room, .NET Azure people, try this out and deploy to Azure Container Apps and let us know what you think. One other cool thing that you're going to see pop up in the portal soon, the .NET Aspire dashboard. You'll be able to try the dashboard in the portal pretty soon. So with all that said, I think I'm done. Wendy, do you have anything else?
And just a couple more slides there. I think we've got the
there's a
link to the learn path in case you guys want to staff that real quick.
Let y'all get a picture of that. I'll duck. Cool. And then anything
And
else?
then the .NET Conf in November. I hope to see everybody there.
Please. Y'all get out there. Cool. I think I'm good. I think that's it. Cool. Thanks, y'all. Take care.
Thank you, everybody.
Happy build. Oh.